and then we'll have a lot of happy walkers. I want to celebrate some of the early achievements that we start out with raw geometrics. This is actually a very good treatment. It narrows down the exposure of the pedestrian. It also slows the motors down before they have a chance to get to the pedestrian. It could be better, and it will be, but it's a good start. You start with your geometry first. I also want to celebrate how you will be able to pick up from many communities in British Columbia that are already doing some fairly profound things. And one of them is Victoria. They've been working at it for a long time. And it's a smaller city, it's not large. But so too, I think you can learn some lessons from Vancouver, even though it's a much more complex city. And, but I will share with you that I took about 40 town planners from all over the world to Vancouver. And the day we got to Vancouver, we got off the bus, and I said, from the time we wake up to the time we go to sleep tonight, you're going to be on a bicycle. And throughout the entire peninsula, I want you to just stop anywhere and look in all four directions and see if there is ever a time that there aren't pedestrians and bicyclists with you. And sure enough, by evening, when everybody in the group came back, they said, Dan, we couldn't find such a place where there weren't people walking and bicycling all the time. Now, this is a city that purposely set off on city making and has achieved it in a very high level because of their emphasis on people first. Now, I also want to make sure my message doesn't come across as anti-anything, and certainly not anti-car. We're not there yet. But the point is that our cars do matter, but there are problems with cars, and these problems will not go away. In fact, they're going to become much more significant, more complex, as they uglify the approach into the valley, as a car breaks down, as fuel prices fluctuate, we're going to see more and more problems. Now, that wasn't the picture that was painted in 1930. In 1930, we were being given the information that the automobile was going to bring this grand new society. And we can actually go to the first recorded messages that started somewhere around 1930 that said if we were to have full use of automobiles, that is a vibrant auto industry, then we had to start building our cities for our cars. And that's where it all started. And we worked at it. The cities that had the most to spend did the most damage. Houston. The cities that had the least amount of money did no damage. Guanajuato, Mexico. Which one is going to heal faster? Which one will make profoundly more money over time? One block at a time, one merchant at a time. The one that cleans up all of the unnecessary destruction that the automobile left in its wake. We will get into the whole issue of how important it is to address parking tonight. But I want to present to you something far more worrisome, that we're running out of the public realm. You can see that we've been giving it away, and although this is certainly a North American composite figure, if we get to 2010, I think you're going to see it gets cut in half again. We can no longer afford to lose the public realm, and we have to get it back, and it has to come back through this very way. This is West Broadway, which used to be a strip street in Vancouver. And as we go through these images, think of the gift that is being given back to the people of Vancouver as they're reclaiming this street, where the movement of cars still occurs. But now the value of the land goes back 1/4 mile on either side of this corridor. It goes up, I think 3, if not 4 times it increased its net value as a result of really focusing on that spine. And that's why I say don't leave 32nd Street behind. It's too important to just leave there doing what it's doing to you today. So Would 32nd ever look like West Broadway? No. But it's got to look a lot better than it does today. And it will. Now, why is this important? Why do we need public realm, public spaces? It's where we take our children, where we bump into people, where we make many, many, many associates, find a few true friends over time, fall in love with someone, get married, have a great place now to raise our own children. All of these things are important, and they all require a hearty, healthy city for people to come to bring new jobs to want to stay and have their children make sure they stay in the same area to enjoy. And that truly is what I see as the importance of building that strong, compelling, heartfelt place that starts with the street and includes all the things we're about to see tonight. So these are typical scenes you'll see along a well-constructed street. Again, this used to be a strip street. It is West Broadway. This is, help me out, Robson Street in Vancouver. Further down, Robson Street. And again, this is a street that was transformed over time. Going to the east coast of, or let me say the mid-Atlantic coast in the United States, this is referred to as Bethesda Row. This is a former strip street. Or, as we can see through an old strip center on top, being transformed to a standard street, to a main street. All of these are the ways that we're going to start to rebuild and replenish that well, which we're referring to as the public realm. So I'm going to play a little bit of a game here. I'm going to pretend all of us, myself included, are living in the 1400s. And we've all graduated from high school. And we've all learned, am I correct about this? That everything revolves around planet Earth. Is that right, folks? We all went to school, correct? Well, along comes a mathematician, Copernicus, in the next century, and he says that can't work. Math proves that the sun is the center of our planetary system, our solar system. And it's the only thing that works out mathematically, so it's got to be true. But no one would believe him most of the years he was alive. That was a radical departure from conventional thought. I am about to propose an equally radical concept. Is everybody sitting? The car is the center of our economy, of our universe, of our lives. How could we live without the car? How could we? It's the source of all money, all mobility, all everything. By the way, I see a number of high school students. Does anyone want to take a wild guess of how much money you would be able to have in the bank at the age of 65 if you never bought a car? If you took the amount of money and compounded it every year in the banks, how much money would you have by the age of 65? Yes, in the back? A lot. I think that's the right answer. $4.7 million. That's the lifetime cost of not taking that money and investing it every year. So here's a radical departure. It's the human being that is the center of our economy. And once we get this right-headedness and off on the right track, we are going to build the most profound prosperity for our communities anyone can ever dream up. But right now, that is a radical thought. So, Chris mentioned that I had a recent article in Best Life. This is the two-page spread that they did. This is just an overview of some of the tools that we're now about to launch into, of what to apply to the city center. The good news is you're already doing them. So this is a town where they have a great university, Purdue. Anybody here graduate from Purdue? I know it's in another country. Anyone here ever hear of Purdue? Okay, what's missing? Yeah. And so all we do is transform it. And we do the same thing here. This is West Palm Beach. This is an actual before picture. When we did the planning work here, 2 of our cars were broken into. There was no one left in the town center that would defend anything. And this is the same picture 2 years later. This is actual, it's built. One development alone brought $1.3 billion, and that's what we're talking about. Now, everything we proposed, which was to drop out a number of lanes, which would have slowed a lot of people down on their journey home, was seen as a very radical notion. But we carried it out, and this is one of the more prosperous cities in the southeast of Florida today. The scene on the right became the scene on the left. My friend Linda Polanski bought the entire building, an entire block, for $150,000 down, and worked with the city to transform the street. Within 1 year, she was worth $3 million. So Linda invested it and bought this block. 1 year later, she was worth $6 million off of a $150,000 investment. So then she bought this block. Linda has now retired with $45 million in her pocket. She is the start of South Beach. This is a street that I worked on in Brookhaven, Long Island. Every time we work on a street, we start with the street, and we start with the edges, and we start to define how the motor should behave. Then we bring in the buildings and bring in the other massing so that what we end up with is a very successful place from retail. Now, so you can see my premise, where I'm heading with this. If we want to feed one wolf, great, go ahead, you know how to do it. If you want to start feeding a new wolf, then pay close attention to the details, and you'll end up with the end results that you look for. I also like to say, let's work from both ends of the spectrum, that we think of the needs of children, and we think of the needs of our seniors, and then we include everyone in between, because meeting their needs, we're meeting everyone's needs. So, we're now ready to define why cities exist. They exist for one major reason: to increase exchange. Exchange of our service, our products, our goods, that's our jobs. But also the exchange for our culture, our friendship, our ideas, our passion, our knowledge, our wisdom. That's how we advance as a society. And so they're also invented so that we can minimize how much time we spend traveling. So I think you can see where I'm going with this, that if we focus on our people first, we're going to end up building the least costly infrastructure, an infrastructure that we can afford, and we're going to have the ability to make more money by going that route than if we were just simply to build to expand forever. But I also want to point out a couple of things that really concern me. First of all, as a person approaching my most senior years, that if we don't give people a great mechanism to get out on their own independently, then we are going to have to write bigger and bigger and fatter prescriptions. We have to. And we're not doing it in the United States. And that's why I felt so good when I saw how well you're focusing around this neighborhood and with your link to the town center. And so it takes more care. It takes more attention. But if this is a common scene throughout our communities, then we are being successful.